I'm willing to say he's the basement coach of the year.
Two games, they're gonna get something rolling.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Saga podcast presented by Al Diaz Electric. I'm Tyler Sumner. Joining me today from Greensboro, North Carolina, is a very special guest, former Division III basketball superstar who played at Dean College. Ladies and gentlemen, WINSTON BRYAN. Winston, how are you today?
I'm doing well, man. I'm still playing though. I got one more year left, so I'm not former, still current athlete as we speak.
So obviously you weren't at Dean for all 4 years. You were a transfer. So take me a little bit through what brought you to Dean and what made you want to join the Bulldogs roster and compete there.
So my sophomore year at JUCO, we was a really good team. I say Coach Cabral hit me up like midway through our season. It was really like perfect timing because like we had just lost like one of the best teams in the country. US Sakahatchee right in a close, like a 10-point game. And then like right after that, coach had hit me up and was basically asking me about like, am I interested in the school? Do I have anybody else looking at me, this and that? And soon after that, I got my starting spot. So then I think the interest at first was kind of like good grades, you know, he's playing on a good team type stuff, but then you could actually see like what type of numbers I can put up for him. And then like as he started to see those numbers increase, he had more interest. And then he was the one that was recruiting me the hardest between them and Methodist. So I thought it was like a no-brainer, like always go where you're wanted. So ended up coming out to Dean before I even got to visit the school because like COVID and stuff like that. So it kind of just went out on a whim.
Yeah, now your senior year at Dean was the only season you got to play because you mentioned COVID, and
Yeah.
you were going out there every night, almost dropping 20 a game. So what's your mentality like when you lock into a game at Dean and really around your team?
Honestly, it's kind of like, I'm not gonna say I'm superstitious, but I like to keep my routine the same on game days. Like gotta get the pregame nap in, try not to eat nothing too heavy before when I go into the locker room, like I'm listening to like real calm, like R&B type vibes while I'm into the locker room, while I'm getting dressed. And then as soon as I step on the court, I start playing my more turn music, my more hype music. And like, I kind of just keep to myself, stay locked in on the task. I kind of got like tunnel vision. If you see me before the game, I always got my hoodie on because I don't want to see nobody else want to see what's in front of me. And then honestly, it's just locking into what you got to do. And then like, to be completely honest, like, my nerves are always shot before tip off. And then like, as soon as that first possession up and down, I'll be good. Now I'm just trying to win the basketball game, do what I got to do.
Yeah, and you mentioned Coach Cabral. So what kind of an impact did he have on your career at Dean?
So in terms of me as a player myself, right? Like I've never really been like one of like quote unquote the guys on the team. Like, I've always been like a role player growing up, but like he told me coming in, he's gonna need me to put the ball in the bucket. He's gonna need me to be a leader. He's me to be like an enforcer on the team, right? So like I got to grow my game a lot on the fly throughout the season. He gave me that opportunity. I always appreciate him for that. I mean, on top of that, he also was like a guy that he said he wanted the program to be led by the players. So like he wanted us to have like an open office, like coming to him, talk to him if we have a problem. Now those conversations might not always be pretty, but he was like, the door is always open. I'm gonna hold y'all accountable for everything. As a captain, I'm gonna rely on you a lot because this is my first year and I'm learning on the fly just like you are. So like he helped me grow not only as a player, but like as a man this year, like dealing with the hardships of the season, learning how to handle myself as like one of the best guys on the team, all that other stuff. So kind of just helping me grow.
So you play the two and sometimes the three. So as like a shooting guard and a small forward, who are your kind of inspirations to look up to for basketball players in that aspect?
Gerald Green.
I mean, so like when I was like a little kid, I was the biggest LeBron fan growing up, like LeBron. But like as I got older, I started to like look at guys that weren't super athletic, but could get a bucket, or they had a play style similar to mine, right? So even though Kobe Bryant was super athletic, he lived in the mid range, which is something I like to do. So I watched a lot of Kobe, like current basketball players. Now I watch a lot of like Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, CJ McCollum, Dame. If any guard that likes to play in that midi has like a real good tween game, Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry, guys like that. Like I watch any and everybody I feel like I can go get a bucket, and I try to take any and everything from their games and try to add it to my own.
So you mentioned that you're having a fifth year, which is news to a lot of people because we didn't know what was next for Winston after Dean. So where are we going to be able to find you playing basketball next?
Going to
go? University of New England, in another Division III up in, I think it's Bedford, Maine. It's like 2.5 hours from Dean, 12 hours from home. That was the school. After the season, I asked Coach, could he help me find another school to play my COVID year? And he hit up like several coaches in the group chat, and University of New England had my major, and the coach was pretty interested in me. So we got the ball rolling for that.
And while you were at Dean, you made a lot of friendships, one such as myself and others. So what was kind of the motivation to just reach out and help people that you wanted to give a chance and let them know, like, hey, we can be friends and stuff like that?
I mean, it's kind of weird, right? Because if you know me, see me on campus, I'm naturally like a kind of quiet guy to myself, right? But through the sport of basketball, people see my personality on the court, and usually through basketball, my real personality starts to come out more. Or if I'm around people that I'm already comfortable with, it's kind of easier for people to be drawn to me in that aspect. So it's kind of like the friends that I got, or the friends that come around, my new friends that I make. I can't really tell you how we started talking, but I guarantee you I was probably around somebody that I already knew. So I was in a comfortable situation, or I was in a basketball setting, and they got to see like that different side of me, not that just got to kind of just be to himself, chilling in the background type situation.
Now, while you're at Dean, I noticed that a lot of people also noticed is the song Dreams and Nightmares by Meek Mill when it comes on. We've noticed that you're a big Meek Mill guy, but when that song plays throughout the gym at Peoria Gymnasium at Dean College, what goes through your head and like with that song coming on? Because you're a totally different guy pregame when that song comes on.
It's like that song take me back to high school, like Dreams and Nightmares. That was the song in every locker room, every game, my whole varsity career. Like it just take you to a different mode. Like every time I hear that song, it takes me back to being in the Dudley locker room and how everybody be singing a song, and then once the beat drop, Meek Mill start going crazy. Like everybody in the locker room start going crazy, jumping around, doing whatever. So like, it kind of just take me back to that moment, and it just helped me like lock in, because it's like that's literally kind of like how I prep for a game. It's like I'm real calm, relaxed, melodic, and then boom, I'm ready to go. So it kind of like just take me through that whole process.
Now, you being from North Carolina, obviously the greatest basketball player of all time, went to school there, Michael Jordan. So have you ever sat back and realized like, wow, I'm in the same state that Michael Jordan played basketball in?
Man, they don't call it the hoop state for nothing. Like outside of Michael Jordan, like there's crazy amounts of talent all throughout the state of North Carolina. Like I haven't been to any area, played ball there, and not seen somebody that was like Division I, pro, D2, D3, whatever. Like it's always high level competition wherever you go in the state. And then like there's also guys that like older OGs that used to play, or like young cats that you see are coming up. Like you're gonna be on the watch for them. Even guys that like they just be on the block, but they can still go. Like they just got into the wrong type of stuff, but they can still hoop. Like it's talent everywhere in North Carolina. Everywhere, like anywhere you go, you're gonna see somebody that can really go. So just being in that environment, I'm really blessed to be in it.
And you mentioned Kobe. And prior to COVID, The year kicked off with Kobe passing away in 2020. How did that affect you, and like sort of where were you when you found out that Kobe had passed away?
I was in. I think I was at my apartment with my at my last year at my JUCO, right? And like when I heard it at first, I was like, bro, someone just tweeting something crazy. Like I didn't believe it at first. I didn't believe it until I saw the notification from ESPN, and then I saw the tweet from Rose. And I was like, oh, this is real. And it was like I was in shock for a little bit because I was like, not anybody but Kobe. Like it's kind of crazy. Like just retired, kicking off his career in a real great way, and now he's just up and gone. Like kind of just put life in perspective. Like at any moment, it can all be taken away from you. So you got to take like every day to the fullest. And I mean, I was heartbroken because like I grew up. That's why I grew up watching like Kobe, LeBron, those matchups. Like those are the ones I live for. So it was like I just couldn't believe it at first, and that was like real sad. And then it was like, all right, let's just go get in the lab because that's what he would have been doing. So it kind of just helped you lock in more, appreciate what you got in front of you.
Now, you mentioned the Kobe LeBron matchups, and one thing we never got was Kobe versus LeBron in the finals. If that were to happen, who would you put your money on for that?
The year that they should have went is the year that Orlando went. So I think that was 2009. Yeah, I think that was 2009. I think the matchup would have been crazy, but I think Kobe still would have won it just because the Lakers had a better team than the Cavs at that moment. Like, I think that year they had like Mo Williams. Well, on the Cavs they had like Mo Williams, Zalgiris, LeBron, obviously. I think Delonte was still on the team coming off the bench, but like they weren't beating Pau Gasol, Kobe, Lamar Odom, and then you got D-Fish coming off the bench. I think they had. I don't know if Jordan Clarkson was in the league at that time, but they had a pretty decent squad in 09.
Now, one thing about you is on the court, you don't know when to quit. You don't have a breaking point. So with that being said, like, is there ever going to be a moment where you sit down and you ask yourself, what do I have left? Or are you just always going to be that guy that goes ahead and really just pushes himself and pushes his team to be better?
I mean, as long as I'm able to dribble a basketball, I'm gonna want to win. So I'm gonna push everybody around me to do that. And then if I'm lacking in my department, I want everybody to tell me that I'm lacking. Like one thing about being a leader is you got to be able to take the shit that you give other people. So I always told guys, like, if I'm lacking as a leader, if I'm lacking as a player, let me know that so I can pick my own stuff up. And then it also kind of just comes from like always being a winner. Like up until this past year, I've never been a part of a losing program, so I don't know what that feels like. So it's like just go out, push yourself, push your teammates, and then good things are supposed to be happening from there.
Now, one of the highlights of your season this year at Dean, you went out and you had a 34, 10, and 12 game. What went through your head as you were dropping those substantial and incredible numbers?
I'm about to say the guy, Mark, was the one that had a triple-double, but I had 20 right behind him. I think my best game statistically was against St. Joseph. I had like 26 on like 12 shots.
Yeah.
And I know in that moment, I was like, even though we was losing pretty bad, like I feel like I couldn't miss. Felt like the ocean was, I mean, the rim was as big as the ocean. Everything I put up felt good. And I knew I was feeling good when it was just like I would be doing stuff and it was just like unconscious. I didn't think about it. It just happened. And then it'd go in. And then I'd do it again and then just go in. Like I started losing myself within the game. So it's like kind of like it's almost like blacking out or like locking into that mode. It's a really amazing feeling when you feel like can't nobody stop you or anything you put up is gonna go in.
Now, as we get to the end of the podcast this year, before we end, I want to ask you a couple of things. So obviously, NBA free agency is hot in the market. Last week, I happened to be on an Instagram Live with the podcast. That's how I joined. And then the news broke about Kevin Durant requesting a trade.
Mm-hmm.
So as a Celtics fan, I've always had it in my mind, KD to Boston, love to see it. You have more of a basketball mind because you play the game, you're more logical. But KD to Boston for Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and a first-round pick. Is that a package that you think works out for Brooklyn?
It will work out for Brooklyn because they would get two all-star caliber player, two all-star caliber players and a first-round pick. But I don't think the Celtics would do that just because they wanted to break up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And then not to mention Marcus Smart. They kind of built that core around Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, JT. I don't think they would want to break that up just yet because they're all still kind of young. None of them, I don't think any of them's clipped 30 yet. And KD's 30, in his 30s, 34-ish, I think. So and they just went to the finals with that group. I don't see them breaking that up, seeing that they just accomplished a lot and now they're having bigger expectations going forward.
So where do you see Durant lacing up in the 2022-2023 season?
I think, honestly, this year he's probably going to stay in Brooklyn because I'm seeing what the Nets are asking for Kevin Durant. And it's not outrageous, but most teams don't feel like giving up everything that they got for KD. And I feel like what's hurting KD is that performance that he had against Boston. It wasn't his best playoff performance. So I feel like people have that in the back of their minds, oh, is KD on the decline, or is this a trajectory for what to come, whatever. Not really. He's still one of the best players in the world. I don't know. I think they were saying Miami. He wanted to go to either Miami or Phoenix, but what Brooklyn wants for him is a lot, and I don't think most teams are going to be willing to give that up.
Yeah, and I've seen that Brooklyn wants 6 or more picks for him, and they want all those picks owned by the team that they're trading Durant to. And the one team that comes to mind is Oklahoma City. They have about 8 picks that they could give up for Durant. Do you think we could possibly see Durant return home and retire there as a Thunder?
No, I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it because outside the picks, who else would they give up?
They would have to give up Shai.
Probably. And then this is going to put KD in the same situation that he was. I mean, kind of in Brooklyn, he's going to be the star and then no one else is really going to be around him. So it's OKC would have him on a contract for a couple more years, but he's going to be up out of there as soon as he has the opportunity to.
Yeah. And another team that has been making a huge move this offseason is the Minnesota Timberwolves, getting Rudy Gobert and now re-signing Cat, and they have that young core with Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell. So what do you think is expected from the Timberwolves this season, and do you think now that they're looked at as a serious competitor in the West?
I think Minnesota is going to be a good team in the West. I don't think they're going to contend for a title, though. I think they're a team that's you might not really want to have to deal with them in the first round or whatever, but I don't see them getting past the second round. They got Cat, but Cat doesn't really show up in those moments. Ant does pretty well. D'Lo kind of iffy in playoff moments that I've seen thus far in his career. And then you can't depend on Rudy Gobert because he's a defender, but teams also attack him during the playoffs and pick and roll coverages because he has to play drop because he's not quick laterally. So I would have to see how they play both of them together, him and Rudy Gobert and Cat, but I don't see them making a lot of noise in the West.
So you kind of see them being one and done like they were last year?
Yeah, like if they get past the first round, that'd be great. But depending on who they get matched up with, I'll probably pick the other team over Minnesota.
Now, the big question with free agency, also besides Kevin Durant, is the Lakers and Kyrie Irving.
Mm-hmm.
Does Kyrie wear purple and gold next season?
I think the Lakers gonna try to make that happen as much as possible. But I know, like, based off of what I've been seeing on TV, they're focused on Kevin Durant first, and then Kyrie's kind of like in the background. You might see it happen, but I wonder what the Lakers are willing to give up for Kyrie. They're probably gonna have to give up some young talent and maybe like one of their key role players for that, and probably a couple of picks as well. I don't know. Because everybody's saying the only thing that's gonna work is like Russell Westbrook for Kyrie, and I don't see the Nets wanting Russell Westbrook in place of Kyrie Irving. I think it'll be fun to see it, but I don't think it's gonna happen. At least not this year, this offseason.
And obviously, a thing that I'm most excited for because he's my favorite player in the league. Kawhi Leonard makes his long-awaited return this coming season, and the Clippers just signed John Wall. So, with Paul George, Kawhi, and John Wall fully healthy again, do you think the Clippers are going to be a serious contender threat this year?
I think they're always pretty serious contenders, but I've also seen how Paul George performs in the playoffs. Like he's a great player, but he hasn't been what we see in the regular season in the postseason. Like he kind of shies away, or he has like really big moments where it's like who is this guy in front of me? Like on paper, they're probably one of the best teams in the West, but we got to see how they perform when it actually matters. And we also haven't seen John Wall in a little bit. I love John Wall. You know, he's from North Carolina, all this other stuff. So I always support him, but we haven't seen him in a while. So I don't know what his game style is going to be like and how that compares with Kawhi and Paul George. Because like he's more of like a mid-post downhill kind of guy. So is Kawhi. Paul George can stretch it a little bit more than those two, but I don't know. I just don't see how that space is really going to work with all three of them, seeing that they all like to get downhill.
Exactly. And ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the Sports Saga podcast. Once again, I'm Tyler Sumner, joined alongside Winston Bryan. Winston, thank you for joining me today.
No problem, man. Love to be here.